What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Going Rounds podcast. I got myself a guest here today, and for the first time, we're going with a guest, somebody to talk to, somebody to listen to my bullshit, and somebody to give another opinion on something. And this guy Patrick, he's been a friend of mine for a while now. He's brother of one of my really good friends, and I'm bringing him in because this fool always has something to say about the fights. So whether he agrees with me or doesn't agree with me, either which way, it's always fun to talk to him, and we're usually talking over social media, Facebook or something, or he'll post something I haven't even seen yet. So sometimes he gets to jump on me. But welcome in, Patrick, man. Thanks for showing up and coming to hang out with me.
Yeah, what's up, man? Happy to be here. Happy to go some rounds. Shout out to Josh who introduced us, and yeah, man, excited to talk some fights.
Yeah, that fool doesn't know enough. Otherwise, I'd have him on. I'm just kidding, Josh. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I
Too
don't know if
busy
he'd
buying
want to.
sweaters.
Right? I don't know if he'd wanna come on here, but yeah, I'm glad you got the sweater thing in there, man. It's so fun to be able to talk that shit. Nobody else knows what we're talking about unless they know Josh, and then they'll know. But, yeah, thanks again for coming on, man, and thanks everybody for showing up and seeing what I got going on today. It's a new little bit of a scene here with a new background, just some different stuff. Gotta keep it fresh, gotta keep it going. We're gonna do pretty much a big recap of UFC 279 because man, was that shit crazy between the weigh-ins, the missed weight, the fights themselves, and all the other shit mixed in between. It was crazy, and I wasn't
Yeah.
even at home to watch it like I normally do, so it felt even crazier because I'm with this fool. Um, in a different city. So we were out there hanging out, watching the fights. It's nice to watch fights with different people sometimes because, there's different perspectives. You get to watch fights with other people mixed in that don't know as much or maybe have a different opinion of what happened in the fights. So it's good. It's a good thing to be around different
Yeah.
people, and we don't get to hang out all that often. So it was cool, and that's why I wanted to get you in here and have you jump on so you can talk about it with me, and we could talk shit about whatever we saw. So
Yeah.
glad you're here, man. Um, how like first thing I wanted to ask you, like how'd you get into watching UFC or MMA in general? Like how long have you been watching?
I've been watching for a long time. So my introduction to MMA uh, is what I like to call it because people a lot of times just associate UFC as that being the sport, and you don't
Definitely.
do UFC, you do MMA.
Yep.
My introduction to it was actually through Pride Fighting Championships. So I was watching that before UFC. Back when there was Blockbuster Video, I would go and check out different things. And big Vanderlei fan. He's the guy that introduced me to the sport and
The axe
made me a
murderer.
fan. Yep. So yeah, I was watching him and then just been keeping up with it ever since, man. And now UFC, obviously the premier organization. I think they maintain the best roster with the most exciting fighters. So it's easy to follow them, but there's a lot of other people out there that got some up and coming people that are looking pretty good too. So
And see, this is what I'm talking about, people. He knows what the fuck he's talking about. At least enough to keep himself going. Because as anybody that watched Pride and can talk about Pride knows something. Even if they don't watch anymore and they don't keep up with the shit that's happening these days, just talk. We could have a whole show about talking about Pride with how many fighters came out of there, went there, never fought anywhere else, anything like that. Those fights were insane. Just the setup of that organization and you know everything behind the scenes. If you heard any of the stories or seen any of the videos, there was a lot of
yep,
shit going down during those times. And it's old days, the old days when there's some real ass kickers and that didn't give a shit, even more so than the guys today. This past weekend, the so-called gangsters. Some of them are, some of them aren't, but they did some of that shit that happened all the time back in the day in Pride. So, yeah, if you're talking about Pride and you know what you're talking about, then you know some shit. So I'm glad to have you here, man.
yeah, yeah.
Um, what like I would say, what's the most prominent time? in the UFC where you like really can say, I guess UFC specific, where you can really say that you were started watching and pretty much kept watching from there, if you
Yeah.
can think of it.
Well, starting out for UFC, the first guy, and this I guess is a little controversial for some people, but I was a big Tito Ortiz fan.
Oh
You know, hate it or love it, but I was a Tito fan. And then obviously watching the rivalry between him and Chuck come up, and then seeing Chuck's like just the Chuck era where he was the most dominant fighter on planet Earth for like 3 4 years. That dude was nothing to mess with. So that, and then I was a big BJ Penn fan too. He was kind of the original guy that was jumping from weight class to weight class, was down to fight anybody. Like he used to have just scrap on his shirt for a
hell
reason,
yeah,
because that's what he was about, just scrapping. So those guys kind of made me a big fan, and then it evolved from there. You know, you start getting into like the people that were more thinking man's fighters, like your George St. Pierre's, and now Kamaru Usman, is kind of that same way. These guys are keep like getting better and better as these generations are coming out. So, just
yeah,
keeping up with it, and seeing everybody come along, it's exciting.
right. And fucking Tito, I mean, people hate him. I wouldn't. Nah, I kind of hate him. No, I don't hate him. I respect what he did for the fight
And
game.
you know what? I get it. Like I get why people don't like him a little bit.
Yeah, and but he was part of an era where there was those big rivalries. Him and Chuck, you can't beat that kind of shit, man. I mean, but to watch Chuck kick the shit out of him was, I don't know, that felt good. I liked it, but I'm a dick like that. So if I don't like somebody, I'm just like, ugh, whatever.
Yeah, you're gonna root for them to get owned.
Yeah, I gotta say though, I did see Tito in Vegas one time, and he was cool. I didn't like necessarily meet him face to face, but I was around where he was because I was waiting to actually get another fighter's autograph. Like I said, I'm a dick, so I'm waiting there, like waiting for someone else, and he's standing there, and he was talking to other fans and stuff, and he was cool. So I can't
Yeah,
hate on his career. I mean, he was a great fighter, and he was a champ. So there's not much you can say more than that. His attitude was the thing that a lot of people didn't like, and I get it. I always respected the fact that he came out to some Eminem. That was dope. So
yeah,
I did like that. And then
yeah,
yeah, I mean those are the days, and I kind of miss those days because that's around the same time I was watching, like when I really got into it and started learning things. So it's a good flashback. I wish we had fighters like that still, but new breed, new era, and it's more mainstream now, so it's tough to still kind of save that kind of stuff and have it stick around.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I just wanted to get a little bit of insight into, I knew your favorite fighter was Vanderlei. I mean, is he your favorite overall fighter, or is he kind of at the top, like top three,
No,
or who
to,
would be
to
your
this
top
day,
three?
my top three ever,
Yeah,
like all
yeah,
time or right now. So top three ever, and this is my personal preference, not putting in, who I think is the best fighters of all
yeah.
ever,
No, no,
but the
no.
guys
Just
that I like.
personal
So
preference.
yeah, it was definitely have to be Vanderlei, BJ Penn, and then, trying to think of someone that right now that I personally liked a lot is actually Cain Velasquez. So
Oh, hell
I was
yeah.
a big fan of his, yeah.
All right.
So those three guys I think were the big ones for me. Um, but the great thing about fighting, right, is that like it to me it's like the purest form of competition, right? So any time that there's fights, like whether it's boxing, even just wrestling or kickboxing, like whatever it is, it's like that stuff is all exciting, man. It's like, to watch the people coming up, and then the stories that they have, the backgrounds, and then to see them like kind of achieve their goals and work hard to get to that. You follow these stories and you get enamored with these people, man. So it's it's all about like the spectacle, you know what I mean?
For sure. And before we get too far away from it, fucking free Kane, people. What the fuck is wrong with you? This dude did something noble. I don't care what anybody else thinks. Fuck that. He shouldn't be in jail. That's my quick little tidbit. Um, I don't know if you.
Yeah, I
I don't know.
agree.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say.
No, yeah,
BJ Penn.
everybody always talks about, like, what they would do in that situation, and he did it,
Oh,
so
for sure, for sure. And he may have been reckless, but it is what it is. Like, you're gonna be reckless in a situation like that. So, and fuck that dude's dad too for being in the way. Like, and quit trying to cause problems, motherfucker. Your son's a piece of shit. So,
exactly.
and if people don't like that, well, fuck you too. I don't know. So BJ Penn though is definitely on my top. I can't even make a list. I could just start talking about, but I could start talking about a lot of people, but I would definitely put BJ Penn up there. He was always one of my favorites. Anderson Silva, and of course Nate Diaz, and nobody
Yeah.
should be surprised by that. I mean the Diaz brothers in general, but I definitely followed Nate from the get go. Once he was on the Ultimate Fighter, like I heard of him beforehand, but I didn't even know where to find out where he was
Yeah.
fighting or anything.
I was
But
always
yeah,
definitely a fan of, like, people that just came to fight, like, the guys that you could count on to be in good stuff, and
oh yeah,
Diaz is certainly, like, one of those guys that anytime he's on a card, you're just, like, stoked because you know you're gonna see a good fight. Win or lose, he comes with it, and then, the shoot to box guys like that style, the Anderson Silvas, the Thiago Alves's, Vanderlei, Shogun, the guys that came out of that camp, I think if you were to take someone that wasn't a fan of fighting and just showed them a highlight reel of shoot to box fighters, it's like you couldn't help but to become a fan after that. These guys
no
were
doubt.
tornadoes of violence and punches and kicks and stomps and just the funnest style to watch, I think.
Just
And
hearing,
the guys that did from that camp, a lot of them evolved into awesome fighters. So
yeah, just hearing shoot the box is like holy fuck. That's bringing back some memories, man. Like you get the chills just thinking about like the crazy shit they got into. They're just a bunch of savages, man. So
yeah. But in like keeping up with the events of 279, those guys backstage were going at it, especially back in the Pride days and stuff like that. Some of the videos that you could find out there on YouTube and all the different places, like those guys got down.
oh yeah. Yeah, and some of those videos didn't surface right away. So when they finally did, man, people just went nuts watching all that shit and what happened back there. So pretty dope. I mean, I've heard mixed things about the video. The one video, I've only seen one of the backstage happenings of 279, and it's like I can see why some people are thinking that it's some bullshit and maybe whatever, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give into that conspiracy theory type thing at the moment because everybody has their reasonings for all of it. Brendan Schaub is like the one kind of heading up this whole theory that they did it on purpose because if not, and he has some really good points. He really does. Like I saw some on Twitter, somebody kind of breaking down what he said and some of the things that he brought up, and they're like, check next to that because that's true. Check next to that because that's true, and everything that they were saying is true, kind of true, and it can be backed up. So
Yeah. I followed up with some of the stuff that he said, and I kind of tend to agree with you with that. You kind of don't want to delve into the conspiracy theory stuff, but I'll say this of the UFC, man, like even in situations like that, they have the roster and they have the means that they can still put on great events. And even with 279 like going off the rails and all the craziness that happened, arguably we got a better event because of that stuff
no
and
doubt,
better fights because all that stuff happened. So regardless of the pre-fight shenanigans and all the BS that happened, I thought we came out with a better event. I was much more excited to watch Diaz fight Ferguson than I was to see him. In my opinion, and I'm sorry, but I think he was going to get mauled by.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And I thought
So
the same thing. I was only excited to see if maybe, just maybe, he does what he did to Leon Edwards, except a little bit earlier, and is able to follow up. But I didn't really have any hope to be honest with you, with the odds looking like they did, on top of what I know and what everyone else knows. Yeah, I mean it was pretty obvious, but we didn't even have to worry about it because we just got a good fight instead. It was entertaining, and they, Diaz being Diaz. We'll get into that though right now in a bit.
yeah,
The other thing I wanted to bring up was what man, I totally just spaced it. Um, Well, let's just get into
Yeah,
a couple things here. I got one thing I did want to bring up. It's kind of on a sad note. We're sitting here having a good time, able to talk about things, but I'm not sure if a lot of people know who Elias Theodoro was, but unfortunately, he passed away recently. He had liver cancer, which I mean, it's
yeah,
sad because he actually didn't tell a lot of people. Like a lot of people close to him didn't even know, which is even crazier. It makes me respect him even more. Not that you earn respect by not telling somebody that, but a lot of people use it in weird ways. So for him not to tell people, it's like, damn, I knew that's the kind of guy he was. He didn't want people to worry about him. He didn't want people to feel bad for him. So,
yeah,
I mean, he's just 34 years old, man. It's way too young. He had a whole career that he had in the UFC, and he was continuing outside of the UFC. I guess he fought at the end of last year was the last time he fought. But a lot of people that I've heard didn't even know that he was didn't even know if he was like sick or not because I guess he would cover everything up and stuff. So I just wanted to give a moment to, kind of remember him. And I don't know if you knew much about him, but he was the guy I followed just because he was on the Ultimate Fighter and stuff.
yeah. I definitely hadn't seen too much of him on the Ultimate Fighter. Obviously, after I heard about what had happened, I kind of did my research on him, and it sucks, man. Anytime you have someone in that situation, especially that young, with family and stuff like that, it sucks. You hate to see it. So rest in peace to him, and you know,
Right.
sucks for his family and stuff like that.
He something funny though about him is I don't know how many people know this, but he was a ring boy. Now, if you look at him right
Oh
here,
wow.
yeah, if you look at him right here, obviously, I'm not scared to say it. He's a handsome dude, and if you saw him with his hair down and his locks flowing, I mean, this fool was, I mean, he has the looks for sure, and obviously he's a fighter, and he's in great shape. So, and he's one of, I think he was like 170, so he's right there. But anyway, he was on Invicta Fighting Championship, and he was a ring boy. He went out there like in some small shorts and walked around with the cards and did the damn thing. And I got to give him props for it because a lot of dudes would go out there and act a fool or something like that. And he had fun with it, but he did it, and he always said he wanted to, and he at least did it in Invicta, which is cool. That's a well-known organization. It's all
Yeah.
women's, so it was kind of perfect. An all women's organization. You got the male ring card guy, so it was kind of funny. So I wanted to bring that up too because a lot of people don't know that he did that. I'm sure there's
Yep.
video out there of it. I can't remember because it was a while back that he did that, but yeah, it was pretty funny. So anyway,
Yep.
rest in peace to him, and hopefully his family is dealing with it the best they can. And you know, I
Yeah.
don't know what else to
It
say
takes
about
it
that.
takes a real man to put on a pair of booty shorts and walk around a ring for sure.
No
So
doubt, no doubt, and he did it too. Um, so let's go ahead and get into our recap here. There's the updated picture because, of course, the old one circulated even in the weigh-ins. I'm not sure if you paid attention to that. I don't know if you watched the weigh-ins.
yeah.
The big screen on stage of the weigh-ins still had the old poster. It was, I mean, which you can't do much about that. It's tough to try to get those kind of visuals out in time for something that
Well,
big.
and that speaks to the craziness of like the
Oh yeah,
whirlwind of what they had to do to get that event to go off still. So
definitely. And what you were
yeah,
saying
man.
earlier, for them to pull off the switching of things, making the deals work. I know they got Dana said some shit about, oh, nobody got paid. They have contracts. It's like, oh, you're so full of shit. Everybody got paid because that's the only way you made those fights happen. So that's one
Yeah.
thing I did, agree with Shab about how he was lying about that because damn well Daniel Rodriguez actually said that he got paid. He's like, oh, I'm sure everybody got paid, but I for sure got
Yeah.
paid.
I
So,
want to say I saw a quote from Diaz who said that he like couldn't count as much
oh yeah,
money as they gave him to continue on with the event because
right,
realistically and as dirty as they were trying to do Diaz, he could have screwed them and said, "No, I'm not going to fight." Homie didn't make weight. What do
yeah,
you want me to do? And he would have
especially
been
for
totally within his rights. But
I
knowing
think
Diaz, he's not going to do that.
yeah, and I think if they would have pushed for him to continue with that fight, I think it would have been a hell of a more of a problem. So the fact that they switched it up got Tony to agree. You know, that's what made the card, and that's why we got these three fights. Even though this was the mess of the mess right here, and poor I won't even try to say it. Li Jingliang. Yes, that's how you say it. I always do it because I know how to say it and I hear it right in my head, and then I go to say it and I'm like tongue
Yeah.
twister. What?
I'm glad you said it because I wasn't even gonna try to
We'll
attempt. I
just
was just gonna say Lee.
yeah, or we'll just call him the Leech because that is his fight name. So,
There you go.
but that poor dude, I don't know if you watched all that, but he was out there all smiles, getting his suit. He was all ready in the embedded episode, and he was all happy. And then they like shut him down from going on the stage. That's when all the crazy shit happened. He was about to run up there. He was all happy. It's like a little kid that was all, sorry, you can't play here. And he just turned around and put his head
Yeah.
down. It's like, damn. So, and then he got a rough fight. And I don't know. I kind of feel like he won. I mean,
No, I
uh,
agree. I think the judges totally got that fight wrong.
yeah,
And that's, they say it all the time. There's that saying, you never want to leave your fight in the hand of the judges, and that was a perfect case as to why. Because the fight that I watched, he was controlling the fight. I think he was landing most of the shots. He was doing more damage. Rodriguez had his moments, but it's hard for me to say that Lee didn't get robbed. You know what I mean? He
right.
he definitely deserved the win for that one.
Yeah. Well, the one I do before we get into those fights, though, I do want to bring up one of the early prelim fights, which was this crazy motherfucker. And that's gonna keep playing because that's insane. Like, how does this fool do that? I would break my ass. I would break my neck. I'd probably break a leg. I can't do that shit. And that fool's huge.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious. Have you ever seen him dancing?
Yeah. And
Dude,
then I wanted to say too, like I didn't follow up to see who got like all the performance of the night awards, but that fight should have been like fight of the night because
yeah,
he survived through some adversity to come around and get the finish. So props to him, man. Like if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's definitely a big time contender coming up. So
yeah. It's a
and
little
there's a lot of interesting fights for him moving forward too.
right. It's a little dangerous because in every one of his fights, he's one of those dudes that gets hit and gets hit a lot, but he can take it, but then he gets rocked. And if he can
Yeah.
survive getting rocked, he comes back with a vengeance and he's fucking somebody up. And then he does this. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
He
he's a great,
reminds me of like Derek Lewis a lot in
yeah,
a way. Like they're very different fighters and do a little bit of different things, but he has that same like kind of personality that just makes you want to watch. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, he's, and just to see how happy he is all the time, it's crazy. I just learned this on Monday. Apparently, his wife just passed away, like a few
Oh
months
wow,
ago.
I didn't even know that.
Nobody did. Like I'm
Wow.
listening to a well-known MMA like journalist, and he had no idea. And so this was like something that was kind of under the radar. And he has kids, so that's even worse. Like it's bad enough to lose your spouse, but to have kids too, and have to like learn how to live life without your wife there, man. I couldn't even imagine. So that's insane. But for him to come out and fight, and during his fight camp, this happened. I guess she had what was it? And I don't remember. It was some kind of weird disease or something, and basically she just couldn't survive anymore. So
Wow.
that's sad. I mean, and he's always such an upbeat dude. Like he doesn't talk about it. He doesn't say anything. Normally get a win like this, and you come out there and say, I'm gonna
Yeah, I
dedicate
definitely
this or something.
from his interviews and everything that I saw, you would have never known.
Right.
So yeah, that's crazy. I that was breaking news to me.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Listening to him talk about it too, like he keeps a good attitude and an upbeat attitude about all of it. He just discusses it how he wants to, and then that's it. So I got a lot of respect for this dude, Chris Barnett. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned his name. That's his name though.
Yeah, Chris Barnett.
I'm over here amazed by his fucking butt bomb flip over here, and his description of this. Um, Hilarious. They're asking him like, "How do you do this? Like, doesn't it hurt?" And he's all, "Are you kidding me? You see the donkey I got in the back here?" He's all, "I'm like Megan the Stallion." So that shit is so funny, dude. Like this guy is funny. I could only wish to have the half of the enthusiasm and just funny shit that he has going for personality that he has. Man, it's just funny, and it's all right there. You
Yeah.
can see it. So anyway,
Yeah, it's
I just
definitely
wanted to
gonna
give
be
him.
one to keep your eyes on, especially the way that he fights, man. You just
Oh yeah,
can't say enough good things about it. And then he was coming off of another big victory too, where he had another impressive finish.
that
So
head kick.
yeah,
Yeah, the
sick.
spinning wheel kick, and he knocks a fool out, and it doesn't look like he could do. He could throw a
And
kick that would
yeah,
be
and
that great.
with the build that he has, like you do not see that coming.
I'm just saying, man. I mean, that would probably be what I look like with the shirt off, and yeah, I'm not doing half of what he can do. So that's insane. I got to give that guy props, and that's why I wanted to bring him up because he's nuts. He's cool. He's a great fighter, which is the main point of all of this. But then, yeah, just hearing about how he handled the death of his wife and everything, and coming back and fighting like he did, man, you got to give that dude props. So Chris
Yep.
Barnett, man, keep doing the damn thing. I love it. And I love this. I'll watch this shit all day. Just watching flip, it's insane. The other
I'm
flip he did
surprised
was
nobody has taken this and started doing like the memes with it, where they have him like breaking through the ring or doing something with it. I'm sure they're
oh
coming.
yeah, the edit's got to be there somewhere. I didn't look for him. I didn't even think about that because I don't know if you saw the one with Leon Edwards and Kamara Usman. Did you see that
I
one?
saw it when you shared it.
Oh, that was sick. I was like, oh my god, I gotta share this one because that's dope. Just him like falling, ripping through the. Oh, that's kind of something that
Yeah.
would have been cool with this one if he would have like fell through the cage and then wound up like in some kind of paradise or something with like drinks in his hands while he's doing this. That would have been
Yep.
hilarious. I'm sure they're out there or they're coming.
Oh yeah, we're gonna see him for sure.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I can't wait to see what they got next for him. I don't think he's gonna get like huge name, but I'm sure they'll give him a good fight and hopefully he comes out
No.
doesn't get knocked around like he has been. Oh, and makes weight. I do have to point that out. He didn't make weight.
Yeah, that
He
was
was one of the many.
among the other things that were crazy about this event. This was like the first time that I had seen something, at least in a while, where there was multiple fighters that didn't make weight.
I think it
And
was like
obviously
six.
with the main event and Kamzat missing by as much as he did, I think that kind of took all the um
The
attention
attention
away.
away. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, he'll do that, but I think and you touched on this too when we were talking before that I guess the doctor for this event had hit up a lot of people that were cutting weight and kind of was giving them the axe saying that he didn't want them to continue. So, we'll see how that works moving forward, especially for events in Las Vegas.
Yeah. The Nevada State Athletic Commission should have all the same doctors, at least in rotation. So I don't know who this doctor was, but I heard from multiple fighters on multiple different shows about how the doctor kept coming back there telling them they couldn't, like they couldn't. That's what Hamzat said. That was the biggest thing his coach was on, and said that the doctor wouldn't let him, and what can you do at that point? You can't really do anything, which is why it seemed like he didn't give a shit when he weighed in and was overweight because he was like, I can't do nothing about it. They won't let me cut anymore. So what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And of course, it's better to show remorse in certain ways, but when it's really not his fault was not being ready, like far enough ready to not have to cut that much weight. So that's his problem, and that is his fault. But the doctor stopping things, that kind of sucks. But if it's for his own good, it's for his own good.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
between them
I,
and the back.
I was hearing a couple people talk about this, and I think as a fighter, to me, it seems like 80% of the job is making weight. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
he may want to, I don't know. I mean, he's in a camp with guys that know what they're doing. So the fact that he came in that heavy, I was, pretty annoyed that had happened, especially because it put such a cool fight in jeopardy and an event like that, So yeah, it sucked. He didn't make any friends by doing that, I don't think.
and according to Dana, which you take that with whatever, but according to Dana, he said that Hamzat came into Vegas and he weighed in right away to see where he was at, and I guess he was at a weight that was lower than the last time he fought when he came in. So that's why they were like, we don't know what happened here, blah blah blah. So the medical condition, medical reasonings or whatever is because the doctor from the commission said that he couldn't continue. So that's why he was still able to fight because he could fight at a higher weight. I know a lot of people had questions about that, and he still fought that night and just fought at a catch weight because as long as he didn't cut any more weight, he's fine to fight. Which everything was fine with him physically, just whatever the doctor saw and decided that it wasn't safe anymore. That's why it got you know canceled like that. So at least he still fought, I guess.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
next fight, Lava and why do I always forget? I don't know why it's alcohol. Johnny fucking Walker. Johnny Walker. But
Yeah.
I get him and Hermanson mixed up. So I think that's why I always second guess myself. But yeah, that's a nasty choke right there with his lower half bent one way and his yeah, that's
Well, and then this fight was pretty crazy because it was a nice bit of a scramble on the ground. So for him to set that submission up, he had been fishing for it for a bit and trying to get it for a little bit on the ground, and then finally when he got it, it was pretty perfect. The setup and then getting him in the rear naked, getting him to tap, and this was a big win for him. And from what I saw, very impressive. Like, he's a guy I think that I don't know, man. Like, he's had like some ups and downs, but you can tell that the potential for him to be really good is there. So if he's focused and about his business, I think he's one of those guys that could go pretty far. He definitely has like the size, especially for the division that he's in, to be a real threat to some of these guys for sure.
yeah.
And he's
He's
fun to watch. I mean, when he wins, he gets good finishes. He's a fun fighter.
Yeah, he's got those crazy strikes, the long limbs. I think he's like six. Was that him? Like 6'3", 6'4", maybe something
Yeah,
like
he's a
that. I
big
mean,
dude.
he always seems way taller and bigger than everyone else. So he's just got to stop doing dumb shit that he gets hurt from because when he got hurt doing this fucking shit, you know,
Yeah, exactly. He does
that's
it
when
again.
that's when he went down a little bit, was when he got hurt because he hurt his shoulder doing the fucking worm, and then he goes out and does it again. This was actually this fight when I don't know, man.
Yeah,
He's funny,
I think
but it's way less entertaining than Chris Barnett. That's for damn sure.
he was talking in an interview too, or I think I saw something online that I was reading that he felt like he was poisoning himself by doing like
Oh
CBD or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Like, dude,
So
some people are our own worst enemy, man.
yeah. So he said, because there's a minimal amount of THC in all CBD, which I know is true to an extent. It depends on what you're using. So, I've looked into a lot of the CBD stuff because I've been on it myself and used it myself. So, um, I apparent maybe he's just allergic to THC. Maybe that's why. But he didn't really bring himself across too well with his explanation. Might be a language thing, I don't know. But he the way he explained it and the way he went into it, it just kind of it's like demonizing something that everyone knows to be good, except it just didn't
Mhm.
work for him. So, maybe he did say that at one point in time, but I wish he would have brought it more about like there's something about me that doesn't agree with you know, with this way of, CBD in general or THC, whichever one it was that he's reacting to. So I wish he would have done it that way, but yeah, it is what it is. Everybody has their feelings and whatever was fucking him up, uh, if he thinks that's what it was and it stopped, well, good for him. I hope that that's gonna help his fighting and gonna bring him back, to fighting the way he was when he first came out and before he
Definitely.
hurt his shoulder doing this dumb shit.
I'm actually really excited to see what's going to be next for him. He's like we were just talking about, if he can keep his head on straight, he sky might be the limit for him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Kutilava, I mean, he's gonna keep going because that dude's a savage. He was the favorite, and he was the favorite to win by submission. Instead, he lost that way. So that was kind of crazy. But I'm sure he's gonna come back and have another good fight with someone notable because he's there at that level to get the probably the higher of the mid range names to fight. So, and he's just gonna keep working his way up. So this was a interesting fight. It just, I was hoping for something a little crazier. As far as the exchanges, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't extremely great. Like I've seen both of these guys fight in great fights before.
Yeah.
So I think they canceled each other out a little bit, and then
Yeah.
Walker just found the way to get on top. So
Yeah. You
it was
got to
good though.
appreciate the unexpected though, for
Yeah,
like you just said, the other guy was favored to win by submission, then lo and behold he comes out and catches him in a rear naked of all things, so
yeah.
props to the guy, man.
And that was a nasty choke, man. Just watching him tie him up like that and just bend his body both ways while choking him. Yeah, fuck all that. And for another injury, this shit was crazy. Like the girl
Yeah,
fight was good, but I wasn't sure how. I thought for sure it was going to decision because most woman fights do go to decision when they kind of have a fight like this. Chason looked all right. She wasn't doing anything fantastic, but Aldana was pushing the pace like she normally does, but it wasn't. Nobody was toppling the scales on either side. And then, this scramble happened and stuff. And next thing you know, you get this kick. And that was the craziest shit I've seen in a while for something
definitely.
different. Liver kick from the bottom like that. Like what? How do you even do
Yeah.
that?
Well, you've definitely seen stoppages from liver strikes before, but that's the first time I've ever seen one where it's a kick from the bottom.
Yeah,
So that was definitely, something out of the ordinary to happen, something different. And it did kind of jazz up that fight because, as we were watching, it was kind of just one of those that you're almost like waiting for it to be over so you could get to the next one. But the finish, that was the payoff. It ended up being good just because of that. And we got something that we hadn't seen before.
yeah. I remember like a few minutes, maybe a minute before this happened. I was sitting there watching, and I'm just like, I'm watching this, but not comprehending what's happening here because I just kind of spaced out. And then I go, you know what? I need to pay attention. I want to see what happens in this fight. And I'm not that knowledgeable about both these fighters, so I kind of was trying to keep myself involved in the fight so I could kind of see a little more in depth as to how they fight. Of course, I can always go back and watch it later, but in the moment, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna pay attention. And thank God I said that at that moment because that's when this happened. And
Yeah.
I at first I didn't know what the hell happened, but everybody keeps saying up kick, which I mean it is an up kick, but she kind of did like a chopping like an axe kick
Yeah.
from the ground, kind of.
Well, and I think a lot of times they practice that, especially for like jujitsu and stuff like that, like trying to throw kicks from the bottom. But to be able to build up enough force, especially from there, to hit someone and be able to finish them, that it's almost like a freak accident, I think,
Right.
And judging by the finish and her reaction after, I think she was kind of surprised herself, how it had landed and stuff like that. But it ended up being cool, and then that says it right there, man.
Yep.
That's going to be her new screensaver moving
Yeah.
forward.
I
But it'll
did
be cool.
hear. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, moving on from this point, it'll be interesting to see how many fighters try practicing stuff like that from the bottom now.
Yeah.
Just like when I think it was Korean Zombie that hit a twister first,
Uh huh.
and then all of a sudden you were seeing guys trying to hit it in fights more often.
Bryce
So
Mitchell actually hit
yeah,
it a couple times. Um,
yeah. So
that's what
it'll be
that
cool to see if that starts happening.
Yeah, that I heard. I heard that everybody's like, oh, everybody's in the gym this Monday trying out this move because apparently, from what she says, she actually practices that, like that exact thing, kicking somebody to the liver from the ground. Because she said that she's never seen anybody do something like that, and that it was something I think she did on accident to one of her teammates. And then she's like, well, if I do it on purpose, it would be even worse, right? So
Yeah,
apparently
exactly.
she practices that. I mean,
Well,
maybe
usually
just
it's the opposite. You see the person that doesn't want to entertain any of the ground game just wailing away at people's legs, or trying to get kicks to the body to the downed opponent. So yeah, it was something different, a little refreshing, and that's a pretty sick picture right there.
it is. I like it. I almost forgot I had that picture in there, so I'm glad we talked about it just right. Right when you said that, I was like, you know what? I remember what the next picture is, and that's a good one. Cause yeah, she's just looking at her like, I mean, I fucked you up. What do you want? Sorry.
Exactly.
But yeah, she was curled up. That liver. I've never been hit to the liver like that. I don't know if you have, but judging by everybody's reactions, I don't ever want to get hit to the liver. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
fuck all of
Yeah.
that.
Especially hanging
Oh
out
man.
with you fools, my liver takes enough abuse, so I don't need any more problems in that realm.
Yeah, we don't need anything else hurting it from externally, just internally, right?
Exactly.
Oh man. So this is what we were talking about earlier. The Leech versus D Rod, and everybody's talking about how the Leech got robbed. But I think that has more to do with the storyline, you know, between how sad it was that they didn't let him on stage and just him with the suit and all that. I think that a lot of that played into people thinking that, he got robbed in general. As far as the fight goes, I think it was close. It could have gone either way. And I don't think either one of them did anything over the top to show that they actually. I don't know. I don't think anybody got dropped, right? I don't remember anybody getting dropped.
No, nothing like that. It was entertaining, like, it was fast paced, and each fighter kinda had their moments, but, I definitely think that the Leech got the better of everything, and, for the part of going into the fight, that you could tell that he was excited, and he was fighting and supposed to be fighting a big name. He had probably in his mind, I think this is probably one of the biggest fights that he had. He's probably a fan of Ferguson and wanted to show up and do well. If you were watching the embedded show, you could tell that he was jazzed for this event. So I think when you have that situation, you're so built up and so focused, and you've had your camp and game plan for a certain individual, and then to have that, like, taken away super last minute, it might have sucked a little bit of the life out of him and kind of, changed the way that he was going to approach the fight, how he was going to fight. So that might have played a part into him, maybe fighting a little different and not getting the nod at the end. Even though I agree with you, it was a good fight, but I think the judges got it wrong on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and he he did an interview where he came on wearing the jacket that he had from his suit, and he opened it up, and he just has a white shirt on under that says "robbed." I was like, "Damn, he's playing into it, man." I guess either he heard what everybody said. He seems like a real humble dude. Like, he doesn't look like the
Oh
type of
yeah,
dude to go out there and cause a big fucking ruckus about something. But yeah, when I saw him do that, I was like, "Oh shit." Yeah, he's like, "Fuck this, man. I got screwed." Either way, I'm sure he got paid. But yeah, it sucked to see him lose like that because, I mean, look at his face, man. He's like, "Fuck this." How does
yeah,
he win?
exactly, exactly.
That's
Well,
it's
and then in
shitty.
the reaction, at the post fight when Rodriguez got his hand raised, you could tell he was a little surprised too. I don't think he thought he was winning that fight.
Yeah, I think
So
he was probably just surprised because he was like, I don't feel like I did enough, but maybe I did, and it he didn't do a ton. I'm not hurt.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
Well,
weird.
and just like I was saying for the Leech, he Rodrigo's kind of in the same boat where everything got switched for him last minute, and the fight that he was gonna have, I think, would have been a totally different fight where he would have had to do some different things. So yeah, it was an interesting turn of events.
I think the way that I think Rodriguez is a damn good fighter, and his fights have been pretty impressive before, but I don't think he would have been able to handle Holland with the dynamics that he has. So I think that would have been probably more one-sided fight.
Yeah, it was definitely a step up in competition for him for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's just that picture sucks, man. Look at his face. It's so sad.
Wasn't
Anyway,
a bad fight though.
no, it wasn't. It could have been worse. Especially being that they didn't know each other that well, didn't prep for each other. It could have definitely been a worse fight. So, I mean, it is what it is. That's what you get. You're gonna Some fights are gonna be great. Some fights are gonna be mediocre. I wouldn't. I would say it was just above mediocre. It was entertaining enough to be above mediocre. But yeah, I kind
Yeah,
of wish the Leech would have got that win. I think that would
yeah.
have made his night and everyone else's night better. Nothing against D
It,
Rod because he's a great fighter and a cool dude. But yeah,
It was definitely like a mid card fight. I feel like had this fight materialized normally and was put on an event, it probably wouldn't have been as high up on the card as it ended up being, just because of how the cards had to play out for the event. So
It would have probably traded places with the Johnny Walker Kutalaba fight. Those guys
yeah,
should have been up in that spot. But
yeah,
yeah, like you said, the way it materialized, that's I mean, they wound up where they wound up. At least they fought. They got paid.
hmm
So now to the main. What like Diaz being Diaz, man. This is why I picked this picture because it's like that's fucking quintessential Diaz bullshit right there. And I know a lot of people hate it, but I think it's funny, and I think that he was doing a lot of that out of pure like Tony looks like he's taking this shit super serious, and I'm over here fucking around, and he wanted to make everybody know that he was fucking around. I got a kick out of
yep,
when he was standing against the fence like that, and like it was right about the point where it looked like Tony was coming up, and he just kind of throws a kick back, like, "Yeah, whatever, get away from me," and then the bell rung. That shit was
yeah,
funny. I saw a couple of people just replaying that, talking about it, and I was like, that's almost as funny as Nick laying on the ground posing when he fought Anderson Silva. But Nick did some.
absolutely,
Nick was a fool in that fight because they didn't do a whole lot of fighting. At least this one there was fighting going on, and
yeah.
it was good.
Well, Diaz nailed it before the fight when he said that these guys should have fought a long time ago. Like
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy that they didn't get to fight in arguably what would have been like both of their primes, because Ferguson, he's another one of those guys that's always exciting to watch. And even now he's a guy that anytime you see him on the card, he's going to bring it. So
yeah,
they should have fought a long time ago, and it was entertaining, man. And it was kind of a weird juxtaposition to see Diaz go into something, because other than I think the fight with Masvidal, it kind of seems like he goes in not necessarily with like disrespect for the opponent, but certainly no love. And for this one, he definitely seemed to give Ferguson his props, which I thought was cool, and certainly Ferguson is deserving of that. And then the fight itself, like, it was a classic like Diaz fight, man, like just a barn burner. Like, both of them were bloodied and banged up. Ferguson's shin got cracked and was bleeding all over the mat. That thing was like
yeah.
a faucet. And then,
Early
you got
too.
theatrics. Yeah, it lived up to the hype. It was a good one that, like Diaz said, man, it should have happened a long time ago. And I'm glad that we got it. This was a much better main event than the main event that we were gonna get. This I was way more excited for this fight than I was the other one.
Yeah. And you know what I just thought about? And I didn't even mean to disrespect him this way, but I totally forgot about Chimaev and Holland. I totally forgot about him. I didn't even pull any pictures, and I have them, and I didn't even pull any, and I just realized it, and
Well,
it's
for that fight, right? I think obviously Chimaev is like a beast. Like, he is. There's no questioning that he's a tough fighter, and he's on the up and up, and he's a scary fight for a lot of people. But there was some things with the fight. I mean, obviously with him missing weight, you're not going to gain any fans by doing that. And then, like, the way that he went about doing the fight, and give him all his props, man. Like, sick finish, took no damage, looked completely 100% dominant. But it was like, he wasn't trying to entertain like anything on the hands or anything on the feet like that.
nothing.
Yeah, so
Did
super dominant.
Did you
Great.
see the stuff going around about him taking a cheap shot where they said that Holland was trying to touch gloves or whatever, and that Chimaev just went for the takedown? You happen to look into
Yeah, I,
that?
I saw I saw that after the fact that they were like, and it was I don't even think it was Holland that was saying that. I think other people that watched the event were saying like it looked like Holland went to go touch gloves, and Kamzat just kind of bull rushed him and took him down. I would have to backtrack and rewatch the fight to kind of catch that, because I don't particularly remember seeing that going down. but I mean, that's yet another thing where, he does something that just rubs people the wrong way. You know what I mean? I don't think, I mean, your goal shouldn't be to be like a fan favorite, but fighting is also a business, and part of that is like doing things for the fans, right? And winning them over. So I don't know.
Definitely.
To me, I see him being like kind of like the John Jones of 170, where like you could tell like he's talented, but he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah. Well, and you know, he just doesn't seem to give a shit. A lot of the problem with that night with him is that too many strikes against him. First the press conference gets canceled because of him, because everything that happened revolved around him. Now I'll give him credit. Maybe he didn't start everything, but everything revolved around him because of the beef he has with everybody.
Yeah.
So and
Well, I think
because
Holland.
he walks around saying I kill everybody, so people are gonna take
Yeah.
offense to that. But
I think Holland had said some stuff in a previous. I don't know if it was an interview or if he tweeted something,
Twitter, yeah,
but it definitely rubbed uh
thumbs up.
Kamzat the wrong way. And I guess Kamzat kind of called him out on it when they were backstage, and then everything jumped off from there. Um, you know, the beautiful thing about being a fighter, right, is if you have a problem with someone, you can fight them. So if that's the case, like fight. You know what I mean? You're gonna get to. I mean, at that point, no, they weren't fighting yet, but you were gonna get to fight this guy. So
And that
there's your chance,
also
right?
what happened between them backstage, which apparently even in the video I don't know, it didn't look like a kick. It was too dark. It was so dark, the video.
Yeah,
But I mean, you could see Holland got hit, like, and it wasn't in his face, so the chest makes sense. And I couldn't tell if it was a push or a kick. It wasn't very hard, according to how it was seen in the video. So but that's just what it feeds all of those conspiracy theories because, they get into
yeah,
this shit in the backstage and then all of a sudden they're actually fighting each other. So I think it was just more poetic and just coincidental in the
yeah.
best ways that it all happened that way. So,
Yeah. Well, the history was certainly there, and you could tell that they didn't like each other, and that always makes for a good fight. So
yeah. So the
yeah,
backstage shit was strike 1. Strike 2 is missing weight, and that's a goddamn no-no to everybody, even though again, feeding into the fucking theories, Dana White doesn't even say shit. Like, didn't even say nothing about him missing weight. He goes off and throws a goddamn tantrum every time someone else, especially someone high up on the card, misses weight. Oh, you're fucking unprofessional. These dummies don't understand their job. Blah 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 blah. What does he say about Hamzat? Not a goddamn thing.
yeah.
I'm like, what
Well,
is this?
and that's yeah. There definitely is a double standard for people that are cash cows and people that aren't cash cows, right? So
Right,
people that bring eyes and money, it definitely seems like they get a pass where other people don't,
right.
and that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if tables would have been turned and it would have been Diaz, maybe he would have said a little more because of him going out like he's going out and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just thought it was kind of weird and I think it kind of sucks. So that was strike 2. And then strike
Yeah,
3 was this possible, you know, bullshit of starting the fight like he did. Now, I did rewatch it and I did slow it down a little just to kind of see, or I watched a slow mo, somebody slowed it down. And it did look like, Holland went to touch gloves, he didn't really touch gloves. And so Holland went back and, was ready to fight and it looked like it was just so fast that Hamza just jumped in. He didn't even
yeah.
allow him to throw a punch. So for what, the
And well,
fourth
to
fight in
to
a
Holland's
row?
credit too, after he got taken down, it wasn't like he was immediately in trouble. Like he was scrambling and moving
Oh
pretty
yeah.
good
He
on the
got up
ground
pretty
for a
quick.
guy that is like an absolute assassin when it comes to grappling.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, he was handling his own. He just, he got caught by the better fighter.
He
I
got
think,
Oh, go ahead.
I want to see Kamzat now. From this point on, it's like no more fights like that. Like he has to be fighting top 5 guys.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of fights out there for him that are really interesting and that are going to be way more competitive than that. And I think with this event and his previous fight, I don't know if like that aura of invincibility is all the way there anymore yet. I think like they're starting to appear little bits of holes in his games, and the blueprint is starting to come out about how you approach, I'll say fighting this guy, not necessarily beating this guy just yet, because he is dominant.
If you're top level, then that's for damn sure because Gilbert Burns put it on him. So Holland obviously didn't. He scrambled well. He got taken down once, got back up pretty quick, but then
Yeah,
he got taken down again. I mean, he ragdolled his ass, like
yeah.
threw his ass down and took him down.
And well,
And
well, Kamzat, to his credit too, he took away what I think Holland's, best chance for the fight was. He didn't entertain anything with the hands, anything on the feet. He just dove in, got that takedown as soon as he could get it, and the writing was on the wall as soon as he got him on the ground.
yeah, yeah, and then just Darce choke, man. It was nasty how he put that on, and Holland got out of it, but then it, Chimaev just so quickly put him right back into that position, scrambled, got the position again, and just tightened it up really,
Yeah.
and
I think I sent you the video, but there was a fighter, and I want to say he fights at 185 that was kind of calling him out. Maybe you could remember the name, but that was a really interesting fight. If his name comes to
oh,
me, I'll
Joaquin Buckley,
yeah,
he was on the
yeah, if it,
balcony saying, "Hamza, where you
yeah,
at?" Yeah,
that could be an interesting fight. So, but we'll see what happens coming up. Obviously, Kamzat, he has some things he needs to figure out weight wise, but moving forward, he's a step or two away from the title.
yeah. I think people see that he became a bit of a bad guy, so now they want to call him out because they know all eyes are going to be on him again, not for the right reasons on his part this time. It's going to be more, oh, I want to see him get his ass kicked. He hasn't lost. I want to see him get his ass kicked. And now he brought more negative attention to him. People are going to call him out even more because they see that little bit of able to, maybe catch him on something because of that Gilbert Burns fight. So you'll have people calling him out. Joaquin Buckley, I don't think is on the level of Kevin Holland even. So I don't
Hmm.
know that that would make sense. But I give him props for being out there talking shit and calling him out because I mean that was a strong call out too. Like, hey, you may not be here and I may be talking to nobody, but I'm calling your ass out loudly and you're gonna see it
Yeah.
because it's online.
One name I saw getting thrown around attached to him that I think would be a really interesting fight was Colby Covington.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that could be a really cool one, and that one obviously sets up, the next contender for title shot if
Well,
Usman doesn't get the immediate rematch.
wrestling versus that strong grappling mixture of everything that Hamzat does. That would be interesting. A lot of people might not like it because it's probably going to take place a lot on the ground, but it's
Mhm.
going to be exciting. You see what Hamza does to people. Fucking, he threw around the leech, and now he threw around Kevin Holland. So, but
Yep.
he's a big fool. That fool is huge. So, and he's strong as shit. And that's those guys. That's what they do. So, anyway, back to the main event. As we can see, Nate Diaz with the pose because he got that choke in and got the dub. But I mean, it was I enjoyed seeing him do it that way, even though it's against Tony and it's a little disrespectful to Tony. But Tony didn't take any offense to it, as you could tell. I mean, they were pretty respectful after the fact. Um,
No, I think, for Diaz's part going into it, he was coming into an event where he was supposed to be set up to lose. I mean, it was obvious that the UFC was trying to do their part to put him in a situation where he was going to walk away on his last contract with the L. So I think he felt like the world was against him, and that fuck it attitude came up into him. And then when he got that win, hell yeah, man, classic Diaz. I'd be jazzed too if I was in that situation,
yeah,
especially to win the way he did, to get that finish, and at the 209 mark of what was it, round four, I think.
yeah.
That's destiny.
Yeah. Well, so I saw stuff on that too, and apparently, even the replay I saw today, it was more at like 207 getting to 208. So I think people fudged that one a little bit. But dude, even Rogan like posted it saying something. Remember, I
Yeah.
showed you that night. I was like,
Yep.
look, Rogan's even on this train. So I mean, either way, that's people are gonna remember it that way. 2 years down the road when they say, how did Nate Diaz leave the UFC? Even if he's back, they're gonna be like, oh, he choked out Tony Ferguson at 209. Talk about good
Hmm.
shit. So I was gonna ask you, do you remember how Tony got got cut on his head? Because I don't remember what that blood is from.
I think it was just the boxing.
Just the
Um,
boxing?
yeah, Nate was putting it on him pretty good,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
they both were he was giving as good as he was getting, but yeah, I think the boxing just caught him. You know.
The reason why I asked too is if you notice, a lot of people talk a lot of shit about how much Nate gets cut up and always looks like he got the shit kicked out of him. Not a fucking scratch.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
blood. And he bleeds all the damn time. First round, blood. Second round, more blood. Third round, face full of blood. Not this time.
Yep.
So I mean, I
Yeah,
thought that was pretty telling.
it was an interesting fight because it showed that Diaz is still very much it can be still very much competitive against the right kind of opponents. You know what I mean? And he still has a lot to offer. There's still a lot of like really interesting fights out there for him. I know I want to see the third Connor fight. I would love to see that and how that would play out because it would probably be the most entertaining fight. The
Yeah.
pre-fight leading up to that, everything would be amazing.
Some
So
more
I would love to
cocaine
see
blood.
that. Not even that. I think
Shit talk.
just yeah, just the back and forth between those guys, and then the what makes people respect fighters, I think a lot of times is authenticity. And Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz too are 100% authentic who they are, Stockton 209 West Coast gangsters. And people respect that, man. People respect the real. Nate Diaz is real, and he's a hell of a fighter and entertaining to watch. So, much love to the guy, man. I really hope that he sticks around and um, fights smart fights that are good for him and stuff that's entertaining because he certainly deserves to like have himself set up and walk away, healthy and still able to do what he needs to do. I think what's interesting going forward from this fight is what's going to happen with Ferguson and where he
Yeah.
goes from here. Because
That's his fourth
listening to
loss
his
in a
post
row.
fight, and he doesn't want to slow down. So I don't know. I think a lot of times with these guys that stick around forever and that are like career fighters that don't really have a lot besides the fight game. I think that a lot of times they feel like there's nothing else for them, and that kind of sucks for Ferguson, man, because he was dominant in his own right for a long time and was winning a lot of great fights. So it'll be
A lot of
interesting to
bad
see what
luck.
happens with him.
A lot of
Yeah,
bad luck with the injury, with with the potential fights with Habib every time being canceled. You know, he got the interim belt, but he could never get to that, undisputed championship, and that's what sucks. I don't even know if he's actually fought for the complete
official title.
official title. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember. I
Yeah,
think there's
to
always
my
been
knowledge,
something
yeah,
in
I'd
the way.
I'd have to backtrack to see if he has. But yeah, I think you're correct. Every time that it's come around for him, I don't think it ever came to fruition. Because I
Called
think what
himself
they
the
tried
world
to do him
champion.
and
Because he
well,
had the
that's
interim.
that's a whole nother podcast in itself. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times the interim champs, they end up being a lot better than the actual champs. And we
Right.
can we can look no further than how we started this with Tito
Yeah.
and Chuck to point to that, and
Definitely.
friggin' Randy too. So yeah.
Yeah. I hope that he gets out of this funk. He looked really good against Chandler in the beginning of that fight when he fought in the last fight that he had.
So that was another thing about this fight, right? So if I'm Ferguson, why were you entertaining boxing with Diaz? Like Diaz has really good boxing for MMA. And
Yeah.
it didn't seem like he was trying to go for takedowns. It didn't seem like he was trying to throw like the spinning stuff like he does. He wasn't it didn't seem like he was trying to be as fast paced as he normally is. And again, maybe getting back to the fact that he had a change of opponent last minute, the game plan kind of wasn't there. He didn't get to strategize the way that he wanted to. Who knows? But he definitely looked like he was moving a little slower for this one. So who knows? If he was dealing with anything coming into the fight. But yeah, he kind of seemed a little off, like he wasn't himself for this one.
Well, there's no doubt that he's lost a step, right? He's not as fast. He doesn't have the footwork like he used to, and his strikes aren't just as fast as they were before. I guess is the
Yeah.
only way to say it. But this is the thing is I heard everyone talking about how the biggest mistake he made was taking Diaz down in the fourth round because he fell right into that guillotine, and that's what Diaz does. You know, every time he'll wrap you up and he'll put you in that guillotine.
Yeah.
So
I
they
think
were
in
saying,
Ferguson's mind, he probably feels that he's, and maybe wrongfully so, but I bet he probably feels that he's just as good as Diaz on the ground.
right? Well, yeah,
So
he's got that 10th planet jiu-jitsu. And I don't know if I think he's a black belt. So, there's
I would
different
assume so.
levels.
Yeah.
Um, he was doing good with the leg kicks, though. That's the thing. I just think that Diaz wasn't showing how much that was actually getting to him. But I think if Tony would have
There
kept getting
was
those leg kicks,
one moment in the fight where you could tell that Diaz, the leg kicks were getting to him for
yeah,
sure. But then even after that, Ferguson didn't capitalize on that. It seemed like, and maybe because he split his shin, he wasn't throwing those as much.
yeah. Well, there was a lot of respect between them two. So, and this it's commendable. I mean, maybe that's something that Tony didn't have that in his. Um, maybe he just didn't have it in him to be at the savage that he normally is. Just because of the change of opponent, the respect between them two, and the fact that he's lost a step. He just looks older now. That hair doesn't help either. Fucking hair. I don't know why the fuck he did that to his hair, but I have to say that
Yeah,
because
he's
it drove me nuts every time I saw him with his fucking hair.
yeah,
But
he there was a couple things in like the embedded episodes too where like, you know, he was referencing his family a lot and stuff like that. So I think he kind of feels like he's getting to that point where it's kind of like, I don't want to say like falling out of love with the fight game, or not wanting to fight, because I think he's a fighter. It's who he is. But I think he might be getting to a point where he knows that he might not be as good as he once was, and it's like, do you want to step into that gatekeeper kind of role? Do you want to go from being like a main eventer and fighting for belts and being in contention all the time to kind of, just being one of those guys on the card,
yeah, well, in order to be a gatekeeper, you got to be somebody that's hard to beat, and he hasn't shown much of that. 4 fights in a row, you know, that head kick was nasty by Chandler, and I think that changed him a bit. Like he just looks older, and he looks slower.
Yeah.
So I
And
hope he turns it around.
well, and it's important to point out too, like the people that have beat him are the best,
Yeah,
So when he starts losing to guys that are, a little lower in the top 10, then yeah, I
yeah.
think it's time to have that sit down with your team and just, what are we doing here,
Yeah. No, that's a damn good point. And we've seen guys come back from worse, uh, and have a resurgence. So he's a crazy cat, and I think that there's a possibility.
It's important to point out too for this fight, um, and I think they ended up fighting at a catch weight too. Am I correct in saying
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay, so
It
yeah,
was, or no, wait, was it 170? No, they fought at 170 because that's where
okay. Yeah,
Ferguson
because
was gonna fight it.
Ferguson. And I think that it's important to bring that up, that Ferguson, is trying to doing things, I think, because he knows the things that we were pointing out. So I think a change in weight class, him trying to do things like that, it's I think he knows that he needs to make some changes too.
Yeah,
And whether those work out for him, we'll see.
his fight against the Leech was gonna be his first fight at 170. So see, all these things coming together, man. That's what people keep bringing all this bullshit up about because he was supposed to fight the Leech at 170, first fight ever at 170. Hamzat misses weight, goes to what and fights Kevin Holland, who was initially from the get go gonna fight a catchweight fight at 180 with D Rod. So that's weird already. Like nobody even
Hmm.
really mentioned all that in the beginning. I heard it a couple times, but nobody made a big deal about the fact why is it a catchweight at 180 of all things too. So these are the things that this is why people are going so nuts about this shit, and I understand it, but I just feel like there's no way in hell all of that is true. Some of it is, and those are just facts, and those can be backed up. But all this stuff is just too coincidental, and that's why people are running with this narrative. But I just think that the UFC, they're professionals. They've been doing this for a long ass time. They got the money and they got the power to shuffle things around. So if they've saved a lot of events because of injuries and other unforeseen circumstances that have happened at the last minute. So if they can save all these events, unless you're a fucking chump like me who was gonna go to his first fight in Vegas for 151, and that's the first goddamn event to ever get canceled completely. Fuck you, John Jones. That's all I gotta say. You should have fought Chael
Yeah,
Sonnen and made it a goddamn fight.
I'll
But
co-sign that.
instead, God damn it, man. So anyway, I think there's only been one other event, which I can't tell you which one it is, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about the fact that there's been one other event like that got completely scrapped when it was already in promotion and everything. So I
Yeah,
don't think it was as bad as the 151 fight, but it was definitely something that got scrapped, even though they had planned for it. So anyway, big ups to Nate Diaz. I hope he gets out there and does the damn thing and, makes some money because I know that's what I know he's about showing that he's a bad motherfucker, but at the same time, I hope he makes enough money to where if he never comes back to the UFC again, that's fine. And I would love to see him back, but even if he does come back, it'll be for good reasons. And I hope, that all
yeah.
works out for him.
No, him and his brother. I think they both are pretty. From what I can see, money savvy. It doesn't seem like they're dying for fights to be able to support themselves. They've put themselves in a position where they can kind of control their own destiny with that kind of stuff. And Nate for sure is gotta be. I gotta imagine one of the top 10 earners for UFC ever. I know that his name is attached to, off the top of my head, at least two of the biggest selling events that UFC has ever had,
No doubt.
and he's one of those guys, man. People love him. People love to watch him. He brings those eyes, so he definitely deserves it. And then Nick too, man. He's another guy that brings those eyes. People love the Diaz brothers.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm hoping the best for Tony too. I hope he comes back and does the damn thing at least for a little while. I'd like to see him get another win, and hopefully they give him somebody that isn't like the top of the top because that's what he seems to be getting. Obviously, Diaz has lost a lot of fights too, but it's a big name and it's a big fight and it's a dangerous one for him. So hopefully he gets something more of a
Yeah,
forgiving fight for him. Something that he has a little more of a chance. Maybe that'll get him back in the groove of things and have him come back and find his
I
way
think it's
again.
it's all going to be about picking the right fights for him. I
Yep,
think if he can get the right fights, he can still make a run. I think he's got it in him to go one more run.
definitely. Yeah. Well, that's oh shit. Oh, I thought I messed something up right there. That would have been
Still
bad.
here, buddy.
No, it did what it was supposed to, but I got scared. Um, these are the things I deal with all the time. I'm always like, oh man, did I do something wrong? I got these fancy little tools and stuff to help me out, right? But it's still easy to mess something up, and I'm still working through all that because I'm always like this one. I was nervous for. I'm like, I can't get it wrong. I don't want to make Patrick look like a fool. It's like I don't want to come to your fucking
No,
podcast
t-
no more.
too late, buddy.
No, this was fun, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I had fun. It's good to talk about the fights. We didn't talk about anything upcoming, but I mean, I hate to be a shithead about it, but the next fight's coming up. There's fights every week, so not every card is gonna be like a great card. And this week's coming up. It doesn't have a lot of big names. It has a lot of potential good fights, but nothing, no big names.
Yeah. No, the
So
immediate next one, yeah, there wasn't anything on there that I was overly excited about. I'll probably still end up watching just because I like watching the fights.
same here.
Um, there's a couple bigger ones coming up though, like 280 and 281 are going to be good fights. Just looking at my little notes that I took right now, I'm really excited to see. I think the fight night after the next fight night, we got Cody Garbrandt going against Yaya, I think is how you say his name.
Yeah, Ronnie
But
Yaya.
yeah, that'll be an interesting fight. I kind of want to see. I like Cody. I'm a fan of his. I want to see him do well, but he's kind of in another position too, where he's got to figure some things out.
Yeah, those
And
are two heavy-handed motherfuckers right there, and if one of them lands flush,
yeah,
it's 9
that's gonna
points.
be one of those where whoever gets off first or gets going first is probably gonna take that one.
Unfortunately for Cody, though, he's been knocked out a few too many times, I think, and I hope that he isn't done with it as far as his chin goes. So he can come back and maybe make another run for the belt. But ugh, those knockouts have been pretty bad.
Yeah. I've heard it described before as like, chins are like cash registers. You can keep stuffing cash into those cash registers and keep stuffing cash in and keep stuffing cash in, but eventually, once they break and they can't close anymore, that's it.
Yeah,
You're not going to be able to stuff any more in there, and Cody might be at that point.
yeah, just hard, nasty knockouts for him. So that's
Yeah.
what scares me, especially. I mean, Ronnie Yaya is not like he's not like in the upper echelon of things, but he's definitely above mid tier. He's got heavy hands. He's a great
Yeah.
fighter, and he could definitely knock people out if they give him the chance to. And unfortunately, Cody likes to open himself up, winging those hard,
Yep.
crazy punches that he knocks people out with. So
Well, I think it speaks to like how some guys choose to train too. Because Cody, I think, is a guy that's gotten knocked out not only in fights, but I think in training he gets knocked out quite a bit, especially coming from like the camp that he's come from. The history with guys like TJ Dillashaw and stuff like that. Like the way that he trains, I don't think has done him any favors.
yeah, well, especially when he first started, and I think a lot of people have gotten a handle on that. Team Alpha Male, or now they're called Team Alpha because they took the male
Hmm.
out. I don't know if you knew that, but funny. I laugh because it's one of those things that people would get all offended about. What do you mean? It's
Yep.
always been Team Alpha Male. Like whatever. There's females there now. Stupid. That's why.
Yep.
At least that's their explanation. I don't know. But yeah. So I think they're all like they've all gotten a little better about knowing that sparring like that doesn't do anything for you anymore. It's not the savage days of Vanderlei Silva and Chuck Liddell and
Well,
everybody
and,
else who
and
would just beat the shit out of each other.
and my boy Vanderlei is in that same boat where he didn't do himself any favors with the way that he was training. You know what I mean? So all those guys, all the shoot box, that murderers row of people that were, I think that was their goal to knock each other out in
Oh yeah.
training. So
Every training wasn't training. Training was a fight.
they were fighting.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
way to bring it full circle, man. That's the way to do it.
Yep.
Getting up talking about the old days again. I love it. I don't know. I mean, you got anything else you want to bring up, or anything else you want to talk about, or?
No, the only things that I'm looking forward to right now is obviously we got some big title fights coming up with Oliveira and Makachev. We got Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw coming up. That's another big one. I'm really, really, really happy that Sean O'Malley is finally going to fight someone. And this is for someone that lives in Phoenix that is finally going to fight someone that's like
Contender.
worth a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no more gimme fights. So that'll be interesting to see if O'Malley can kind of really be about that hype and see if he's really one of those guys that's that good.
Tell me that
Other than
name.
that, too,
Tell me that name. What's that name?
what Sean O'Malley?
Yeah. Who's he fighting?
Oh, Peter Yan.
Okay. I thought you were purposely avoiding the name.
Oh no, that wasn't the ones that I was. There's a
I was
couple
just
for sure.
I had to fuck with you on that one. I was like, how come he's not saying the name?
How you gonna call me out, man?
Because I do it to myself all the time.
Yeah.
I
No,
see.
but yeah, and then 281 Adesanya and Alex. This is the name that I'm gonna fuck up right here.
Alex.
Alex Pereira.
I've heard it Pereira and Pajeda. So
Pereira sounds right.
yeah,
We're gonna roll with
Pereira.
Pereira.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
That's going to be a really interesting fight. Carla Esparza and Weili Zhang. And then, of course, the one that I'm most excited about coming up, Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier.
Oh shit.
Those are two probably of my current favorite fighters. I'm really a big fan of Michael Chandler and how he fights and how he goes about doing things. His backstory, too, is really cool. And he's kind of a great example of people can come from other organizations that aren't necessarily viewed as in the same light as UFC and still be successful and still compete at the highest level. So that's going to be a really good fight. Excited for all
That's
of those.
281, right?
281, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be a great card. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if you want, you can jump back on and we can do this again for the big pay-per-views, maybe next time we do a preview instead of a recap. This time it made sense to do either one because while we watched it together, so it was either we're gonna talk about what we're gonna watch or we talked about what we did watch, and we both saw the same thing at the same time. It's different when you're away from each other. You could talk about it when you're away from each other, but when you kind of
Yeah.
watch it together, it's a bit of a different thing.
Yeah.
So, if nothing else,
Well,
man,
it'll give us another excuse to hang out again. So we'll
definitely,
definitely have to get some more events in.
yeah. All right. Well, you got anything else to shout out or anything? I mean, I've been neglecting it this whole time, but look at all that fucking black and yellow. Of course you had to represent, you fucking freak. This
I
guy
just
is
I
a
just
fanatic when it comes to the Steelers.
I just want to say keep sleeping on us, and even without TJ for these next couple games, our defense isn't nothing to play with. So
Yeah, and
we're
I
gonna be all
witnessed
right.
that this when we were watching. That's another thing we watched together a little bit of was some football on Sunday for the first of the season. And fucking, I'm over here still sporting my Braves hat, but the season's still going. So, and this is a new hat, so
Yep.
I had to keep it going. But yeah,
That's
I should have thrown.
loyalty. I respect it.
Yeah, I should have thrown on my Colts hat. It matches my Big E thing right there. But yeah. How long? I was gonna ask you, how long are they expecting Watt to be out?
Right now, the
No
diagnosis
surgery,
is
I
like
heard.
no surgery. Yeah, they
Yeah,
were saying that he he tore his pec, but he didn't tear the tendon, so it doesn't look like he's going to need surgery. So they're thinking 6 weeks. Me for my part, he's that guy for us. So I want him to come back 100%.
yeah.
So I hope he takes his time, and our defense is good enough that we should be okay without him.
Oh, you got beast. I mean, it wasn't just him fucking things up in that defense this
Alex
season.
Alex Highsmith, he's
Holy
that dude
shit,
too
dude.
coming up.
God damn. Every time I turn around, I'm like, oh Jesus, another tip ball, another fucking fumble. Not fumbles, but another sack, like sack and sack and sack. I was like,
Yep,
Jesus, these guys are feasting on him, and you still
five
went to
turnovers that game.
overtime. You still went to overtime. What the fuck happened,
Yeah,
man?
well, it's our offense is a whole nother question, but
But you got the
yeah,
win though, right?
exactly.
So
That's all that
in the
matters.
end, at least you didn't stay tied like my fucking stupid team, which by the way is the Colts for anybody who doesn't know. Fucking, I'm glad they didn't lose, but Jesus Christ, man, how you gonna fucking end on a tie? Matt Ryan, what the fuck are you doing? Throw some balls.
Yep,
Jesus Christ. No, I heard he did pretty well. I didn't watch the whole thing. Obviously, I drove for the second half to get my ass back home. But yeah, that was a horrible drive too. Ugh, God, stupid traffic and
yep,
being a bit hungover was shitty. But that's my fault. We had fun though. So anyway,
definitely.
yeah. If you don't got nothing else, man, nothing to plug. You don't wanna. You got
No,
nothing to throw
nothing
out there.
else. I did want to say, thanks for having me on. It was a blast. I look forward to doing it again. Make sure you guys subscribe to Big E and the Going Rounds podcast.
Perfect.
Hit that like, subscribe, do all those things, and hopefully I'll be back and we'll get to go some more rounds and talk some more fights.
Hey, I'm saying I had fun, and this was good, and you lived up to it, man. Everything held up on your end. You had the knowledge and you had the gab to keep it going. So make sure you follow me on Facebook and Instagram if I can spit it out here. Follow the podcast. I post all kinds of stuff. I repost all kinds of stuff. So like I said before, if you don't want to follow like 17 different accounts, just follow me and I'll throw all the good stuff up there from everything combat sports has to offer. So I'm not always on top of all of it, but I'll give you as much as I can. And yeah. So thanks again, Patrick, for coming in. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Let me get my shit together real quick, and then I will say thanks. Peace.
Later.